Have you ever woken up in the morning and felt like the years are starting to catch up with you? Maybe your knees ache a little more than they used to, or you find yourself forgetting small things here and there. Or perhaps you've noticed that some of your old friends aren't around as much, and the house feels quieter than it once did. If any of this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Getting older comes with its own set of challenges, some we expect, and others that take us by surprise. It's not just about our bodies slowing down. It's also about the emotions we face, the way our relationships change, and even the way we see ourselves. But here's the good news: while aging brings change, it doesn't have to mean losing joy, purpose, or connection. In fact, this stage of life can be a time of rediscovery, if we know how to navigate it. In this video, we'll talk about the real, sometimes unspoken, struggles that come with growing older. From the physical changes to the emotional ones, and even the little frustrations, like keeping up with technology or feeling out of step with the modern world. But more importantly, we'll explore how to face these challenges with strength, humor, and hope. So let's start with one of the biggest shifts many of us experience: the way time seems to move differently as we age. First, facing time and death. One of the strangest things about getting older is how time seems to shift. The days might feel long, but the years, they fly by faster than ever. Maybe you've caught yourself thinking, wasn't it just yesterday that I was chasing my kids around the house? And now, those kids have kids of their own. That's the funny thing about time. The more of it we've lived, the quicker it seems to slip through our fingers. And with that comes something deeper. A quiet awareness that life isn't endless. It's natural, as we age, to think more about the years behind us than the ones ahead. Maybe you've lost friends or loved ones along the way, and that can make mortality feel closer than it once did. It's not always an easy thing to sit with, but here's what I've learned: that very awareness can be a gift. Because when we know our time isn't infinite, we start to ask ourselves what really matters. The little stresses that used to bother us, do they still? Or do we find ourselves wanting more moments that mean something? More laughter with family, more quiet mornings with a good cup of coffee, more chances to say, "I love you" while we still can. This isn't about fear, it's about clarity. It's about realizing that while we can't add more years to our lives, we can add more life to our years. Maybe that means finally picking up that hobby we've always put off, or reconnecting with someone we've lost touch with. Maybe it's as simple as letting ourselves slow down and really be here in whatever time we have left. So if you've been feeling the weight of time lately, try this. Instead of counting the years, start counting the moments that make those years worth counting. Because in the end, that's what stays with us. Not how long we lived, but how well we loved the life we had. Second, physical and mental decline. Something we all notice, but don't always like to admit. Our bodies and minds aren't quite what they used to be. Maybe you've struggled to open a jar that wouldn't have given you trouble 10 years ago. Or perhaps you've walked into a room only to forget why you went there in the first place. These moments can be frustrating, even scary sometimes, can't they? Here's the truth: some changes are simply part of the journey. Our muscles lose strength, our joints get stiffer, and yes, our memories might need a little more jogging than before. But before you let that worry you too much, let me share something important. This doesn't mean you losing yourself. Not one bit. What if we looked at this differently? That forgetful moment, it might just mean your mind is full of decades of precious memories. Those creaky knees, they've carried you through countless adventures. The key isn't fighting these changes, but working with them in smart ways. Small adjustments can make a big difference. Maybe it's doing gentle stretches in the morning to keep mobile, or keeping a notepad by the phone for important numbers. There's no shame in using tools that help us stay independent. That's not giving up. That's being wise! And here's something wonderful. While some abilities may change, others actually grow stronger. That patience you've developed over the years, the wisdom to know what truly matters, those are gifts that only time can give. So next time you notice something isn't as easy as it once was, try this. Acknowledge the change, then focus on what you can do about it. Because you're still you, just with more stories to tell and more wisdom to share. Third, loneliness and social isolation. As we get older, our social circles naturally change. Friends may move away or pass on. Adult children build busy lives of their own. Even neighbors we used to chat with might not be around like they once were. It's not that people don't care. It's just that life moves in different directions. But here's what's important to remember. Connection isn't just something we had in our younger years. It's something we can keep creating, no matter our age. Think about this. Every meaningful friendship you've ever had started with a single conversation. That stranger who became a friend. They didn't know you until you met. The same magic still happens today. Maybe it's striking up a chat with someone at the community center, joining a book club at the library, or even reconnecting with an old acquaintance over coffee. Small steps lead to big connections. And if getting out feels harder these days, technology, as frustrating as it can be, offers wonderful ways to stay close to loved ones. A video call with grandchildren, a regular phone date with a faraway friend, or even sharing photos through email can bridge the distance. Don't let the fear of new things keep you from the joy of connection. There's always someone willing to help you learn. Most importantly, your presence matters more than you might realize. That smile you share with the cashier, the wave you give to a neighbor, the stories you tell, these are all ways you touch the world around you. Loneliness might knock on the door sometimes, but you get to decide whether to let it stay. Every day is a new chance to reach out. Because the truth is this: the world still needs exactly what you have to offer: your kindness, your laughter, and most of all, you. Fourth, regret and unfulfilled dreams. Let's talk about something we've all carried at one time or another. Those quiet whispers of what if that visit us in the stillness of the night. Maybe you catch yourself thinking about the career path you didn't take, the places you never got to see, or the talents you never fully explored. It's easy to look back and focus on the doors that closed, isn't it? But what if we looked at those regrets differently? Not as failures, but as signposts pointing us toward what still matters to us. Here's something remarkable about being where you are now. You have a perspective that your younger self simply didn't. Back then, you were making the best choices you could with the time, resources, and knowledge you had. But today you're standing in a place of hard-earned wisdom, and that means some dreams might actually be more possible now than they ever were before. Think about it. That hobby you never had time for. Retirement could be the perfect chance to finally try it. That book you wanted to write. Even a few paragraphs a day adds up. That longing to travel. Many seniors find creative ways to explore, whether through local trips, group tours designed for slower paces, or even immersing themselves in other cultures through films, books, or community events. The beauty of this stage of life is that many of us finally have permission to put ourselves first. No more delaying joy until someday, because this is the someday you used to wait for. So if regrets have been weighing on your heart, try this. Pick one small thing you wished you'd done and ask yourself, what's stopping me from doing it now? Even in some small way. You might be surprised at how many dreams are still within reach. Not as they would have been decades ago, but in new forms that fit perfectly into the life you have today. After all, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time, right now. Your story isn't over. In many ways, this could be the most fulfilling chapter yet. Fifth, feeling out of step with modern society. Maybe you've stared at a smartphone screen, baffled by all the buttons and apps. Or perhaps you've overheard younger folks talking and thought, I don't understand half of what they're saying. If technology, new trends, or even just modern manners sometimes leave you feeling lost, take heart. You're not alone in that feeling. The truth is, society has changed, dramatically and quickly. The way people communicate, shop, work, and even make friends is different now. And it's okay to admit that it can feel overwhelming sometimes. But here's what's important to remember. Your worth isn't measured by how well you keep up with the latest gadget or slang. The wisdom, patience, and perspective you've gained over decades, those are things no app can replace. That said, if you do want to feel more connected to today's world, take it one small step at a time. Maybe it's learning to video call your grandkids, with help from a patient friend, or visiting the library, where they often have free tech help classes for seniors. Even just mastering one or two new skills can make the modern world feel much more welcoming. But here's the real secret. Younger generations actually need what you have to offer. They may know all about social media, but they're hungry for the kind of face-to-face conversations you grew up with. They have endless information at their fingertips, but they benefit from your lived experience. The very things that make you feel out of step are often exactly what the world is missing most. So the next time modern life feels confusing, try this. Instead of focusing on what's changed, focus on what hasn't. Kindness still matters. Good stories still captivate. And human connection, whether it's through a text message or over a cup of tea, remains what makes life rich. You belong in this world just as much as anyone, and your version of keeping up can be entirely on your own terms. Sixth, finding meaning in later life. There comes a moment for many of us when we pause and ask, what's my purpose now? The career that once defined us may be behind us. The children we raised don't need our care like they once did. Even our daily routines might feel quieter than before. But here's the beautiful truth. This isn't an ending. It's an invitation to discover meaning in ways you might not have imagined before. Think about all the roles you've played throughout your life: worker, parent, spouse, caregiver. While those were important chapters, they weren't the whole story of who you are. Now you have something precious, the gift of choice. You get to ask yourself, what brings me joy? What legacy do I want to leave? How can I make today matter? The answers might surprise you. Meaning can take countless forms at this stage of life. Maybe it's sharing your skills by mentoring younger people in your community, finally dedicating time to that creative passion you set aside years ago, becoming the family historian who preserves precious stories for future generations, simply being the person who always has time to listen. A gift more valuable than you know. One of the most powerful things we can do is recognizes that our mere presence the world around us. That smile you give a stranger, it might be the brightest part of their day. The wisdom you share casually over coffee, it could shape someone's life in ways you'll never see. If you're wondering where to start, try this. Think back to moments in your life when you felt truly alive. What were you doing? Who were you with? Often, our clues to meaning hide in those memories. Then take one small step. Volunteer somewhere for just an hour, dust off that old hobby, or call someone who might need encouragement. Remember, the world isn't done with you yet. In fact, it needs exactly what only you can offer: your unique perspective, your hard-earned wisdom, and most of all, your choice to make each day count in your own way. This isn't just another phase of life, it's an opportunity to write your most authentic chapter yet. 7th, changing identity and roles. For so many years, people knew you as the teacher, the nurse, the one who could fix anything, or simply mom or dad. But what happens when those labels don't fit quite like they used to? Retirement comes, children grow, and suddenly we're left wondering, who am I now? When I'm not doing all the things that once defined me. This shift can feel unsettling, like losing your footing in a familiar room where someone moved all the furniture, that career you poured yourself into, those parenting duties that filled your days. They weren't just what you did, they were part of who you were. It's natural to feel adrift when those roles change or fade away. But here's what we sometimes miss: while certain chapters end, the story continues in rich and unexpected ways. Think of it like this: you're not losing your identity, you're being given the rare chance to redefine it on your own terms. The skills, values, and passions that made you great at your job or parenting, they haven't disappeared. They're simply waiting to be redirected toward new purposes. Maybe now you get to be the wise mentor who guides younger generations, the creative spirit who finally has time for art or music, the volunteer whose life experience makes a real difference, the grandparent who passes on family traditions, or simply the version of yourself that gets to explore without pressure. This transition patience with yourself. It's okay to mourn what's past while making space for what's emerging. Start small. Try introducing yourself in a new way when you meet people. I'm a gardener, rather than I used to be a manager. Experiment with activities that have always intrigued you. Notice what makes you feel most like you these days. The beautiful paradox is this: by letting go of who we were, we make room to discover who we've become. And who we're still becoming. Your value was never just in what you did for others. It's in who you are at your core, and that person is still here, with so much yet to offer the world. 8th, the joys and challenges of supporting adult families. Isn't it funny how life comes full circle? There you were, years ago, tying shoelaces and packing lunches for your little ones. And now you might find yourself helping those same kids, who are grown with children of their own, in completely different ways. Maybe it's babysitting grandchildren, giving advice about a mortgage, or even having an adult child move back home for a while. This stage of family life brings its own special blend of joy and complexity, doesn't it? On one hand, what could be more rewarding than seeing your children thrive and being there to support them? whether it's sharing wisdom when they face tough decisions or spoiling grandchildren in ways you never had time for when you were raising your own kids. These moments are precious. That look on a grandchild's face when you tell them stories about the old days, or the gratitude in your adult child's eyes when you lend a hand during a tough time. These are the golden threads of later life. Yet this role can also be surprisingly tiring, physically and emotionally. It's natural to want to help, but sometimes the line between supporting and overextending yourself gets blurry. You might catch yourself thinking, I should be able to do more, even when your energy isn't what it used to be. Or perhaps you feel pulled between wanting to be needed and craving more freedom. In this chapter of your life, here's what's important to remember. Being a rock for your family doesn't mean you have to be available 24/7. In fact, setting healthy boundaries is one of the most loving things you can do for them and for yourself. Maybe that means saying yes to babysitting, but only on certain days that work for you. Offering advice when asked rather than stepping in to fix things. Being honest about what you can realistically handle. The beautiful truth is this: your family doesn't love you for what you do. They love you for who you are. The quiet strength of your presence, the comfort of your experience, the unconditional love you offer. These gifts matter far more than any practical help. And by taking care of your own needs too, you're reteaching your loved ones an invaluable lesson about aging with grace. So, go ahead. Enjoy those chaotic family gatherings. Savor those one-on-one talks with adult children. Relish being the grandparent who gets all the fun with none of the stress. Just remember to save some energy for yourself too. Because the best gift you can give your family is a you who feels valued and rested, needed and free. Noneth. Adjusting to retirement and financial changes. That first Monday morning after retirement. Did it feel strange not setting an alarm? Or maybe you've been retired for a while, but still catch yourself thinking, I should be at work right now. However retirement came to you, whether it was a long-planned transition or something that happened unexpectedly, adjusting to this new rhythm takes time. And let's be honest, along with the freedom comes some very real financial worries, doesn't it? Money matters look different in this chapter of life. That steady paycheck you could count on might be replaced by fixed incomes, pensions, or savings you carefully built over decades. Watching those numbers go down instead of up can stir up anxiety. What if I outlive my savings? Or how do I handle unexpected expenses now? These concerns keep many seniors awake at night. But here's some good news. You've navigated financial challenges before. Remember raising a family on a tight budget, or getting through lean years at work. That same resourcefulness is still with you. The key now is shifting from saving for retirement to living well in retirement. And that doesn't necessarily mean spending more. Small adjustments can make a big difference. That weekly lunch out with friends. Try hosting a potluck instead. The company matters more than the restaurant. Worried about healthcare costs? Many communities offer free health screenings for seniors. Feeling pinched by inflation? Senior discounts add up. Don't be shy about asking for them. And here's something we don't talk about enough. Retirement isn't just a financial shift. It's an identity shift. After decades of work, suddenly having open-ended days can feel disorienting. Some folks thrive on the freedom, others miss the structure and purpose work provided. If you're struggling with this transition, try thinking of retirement not as an ending, but as moving to a new department. the department of living life on your terms. Your job now might include pursuing passions you never had time for, volunteering skills you spent a career developing, simply being the person who has time to listen. A gift more valuable than money. The financial worries won't disappear overnight, but neither will your ability to adapt. You've weathered changes before. This is just one more to navigate with that hard-won wisdom of yours. And remember, the richest parts of this stage often cost nothing at all. Time with loved ones, quiet mornings with a good book, the freedom to move at your own pace. That's what you worked all those years for, and no market fluctuation can take that away. 10th, navigating changing relationships. Isn't it remarkable how relationships evolve over the years? The friends who once stayed up all night laughing with you might now be scattered across different states, or no longer here at all. The adult children who needed your constant attention now have busy lives of their own. Even your marriage or longtime partnerships may feel different as you both adjust to this new phase of life. Change is natural, but that doesn't always make it easy, does it? Some losses cut particularly deep. When a dear friend passes or moves away, it's not just their presence we miss. It's the shared history, the inside jokes, the unspoken understanding that comes from decades of companionship. And with each goodbye, we're reminded that our own time is finite too. That awareness can make us pull back from new connections. Why risk the pain of another loss? But here's the truth. Closing ourselves off only makes the loneliness heavier. The secret isn't trying to replace what's changed, but learning to nurture relationships in their new forms. Maybe it's starting a monthly letter writing tradition with faraway friends, joining a senior social group where everyone understands this stage of life, rekindling bonds with siblings or cousins who now have more free time too, allowing adult children to become friends as well as family. Modern technology, for all its frustrations, offers beautiful ways to stay connected. A simple video call can bridge miles. Sharing old photos digitally can spark cherished memories. Don't let the learning curve intimidate you. Most communities have free classes where patient teenagers teach seniors how to use these tools, and they love hearing your stories in return. For couples navigating retirement together, this transition can be especially tender. After years of defined roles, you're suddenly face to face with more togetherness than ever before. It's okay to need space, and equally okay to rediscover each other in this new light. Try creating small rituals, like morning coffee on the porch or weekly drives to explore new places. The rhythm may be different, but the connection still matters. Here's what matters most: every meaningful relationship in your life began with a first hello. That magic hasn't expired. Whether it's striking up a conversation at the senior center, or finally reaching out to that old acquaintance you've been thinking about, your next great friendship might be waiting just outside your comfort zone. The world still needs your laughter, your stories, and your open heart. Don't let changing circumstances convince you otherwise. As we come to the end of our conversation today, I want to leave you with this thought. Growing older isn't about losing the life you once knew. It's about discovering new ways to live fully within the life you have now. Yes, there are challenges. We've talked about many of them. But woven between those difficulties are opportunities, unlike any you've had before. Think of all you've already weathered across decades of living. Career changes, raising families, societal shifts you never saw coming. Each time, you adapted. Each time, you found your way forward. That same resilience is still within you, polished now by experience and perspective that only comes with time. The secret isn't trying to recapture youth, but embracing what only age can give. Permission to focus on what truly matters to you, the clarity to let go of others' expectations, wisdom to appreciate simple moments that once passed unnoticed. Courage, chapter of your story, exactly as you choose, so as you move forward from today. I hope you'll carry this with you. Your value wasn't left in some previous decade. It's right here, in the present, in your ability to laugh at life's absurdities, to comfort those who need it, to find beauty in ordinary days. The world needs exactly what you have to offer now. Not the energy of youth, but the hard-won wisdom that makes all the difference. Thank you for allowing me to share this time with you. However you're feeling about aging today, whether hopeful or hesitant, know that your story still matters, your presence still brightens the world, and the best chapters might still be ahead. Here's to living them well.